It's Parshat Lech Lecha, third week of the war, third Parsha of the Chamishah Chomshei Torah. We talked about how can we not talk about the war that is happening in this week's Parsha, but more the end of the war, where Melech Sodom turns to Avraham and says to him, hey, how about you take the property and let me keep the people from the war? And we had a very interesting question that was asked a couple of years ago on our video by one of our viewers.
Yeah, he asked, why in the case of Sodom will Avram not take anything from Sodom? And he says, I don't want you to say that you made Avram rich. But we know other cases like in Mitzrayim, where actually Avram does get presents from the king of Mitzrayim, and he's fine with taking that. So what's the difference? What's the key difference between the two?
Exactly. There is a key difference between the two, because when you look in the Psukim, when you examine really the Psukim on the Pshat level, you'll see that there's a huge difference, because over here there's something way deeper between Avraham and Melech Sodom. Avraham is teaching Melech Sodom the most important lesson, which is super relevant for us today, for everything that's going on in the world, in Eretz Yisrael, with the evil that has began a war with us and the good that we are bringing into the world in response. You really want to take a look. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, it's Parashat Lech Lecha, third Parsha from the beginning of the Torah, third week of the war here in Eretz Yisrael. And it's actually hard not to talk about the war that is happening in this week's Parasha, the war between the 5 Melachim and the 4 Melachim. And then Avraham Avinu, the Tzaddik. You know, we always picture Avraham Avinu like this nice old rabbi with the white beard and the cane, this Tzaddik. But suddenly in this week's Parsha, he turns around, he puts on his uniform, he takes his M16, he puts on his vest, he puts on his tactical helmet, and he goes to battle. Not only does he go to battle, he goes to battle with his own private army, a small army, and yet he destroys the biggest armies, the strong armies of Nimrod, the 4 big armies that beforehand beat the 5 Melachim of Sodom and Amorah. And in these psukim over there, we find something very interesting, to say the least. Because 2 years ago, on our video, one of our viewers asked a very interesting question. They asked over there in the video, why by the 4 Melachim? When Avraham is victorious and he wins the war, Melech Sodom comes to him and says to him, oh, you take the property, give me the people. And Avraham responds in a very strong way, saying, no, I'm not taking anything. Anything I get is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You are not going to be able to say that you made Avraham rich, because everything I get is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And yet, a few psukim beforehand, in Mitzrayim, when they took Sarah, the Torah clearly tells us that Paro gave him a lot of good things because of Sarah. And there, we didn't see anything that Avraham said. Avraham took it willfully. It says, hey, Tivim Avraham, he did good with Avraham. So why is there such a difference between these two cases? Why, by Melech Sodom, Avraham didn't agree to take anything, and yet by Paro, he did agree? What's going on at the end of this war, where Melech Sodom says to Avraham, take the property and give me the people, and Avraham responds in such a strong way?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'll tell you something I noticed this year, and maybe this can shine a light also on this question. You know, in my mind, always the story of Sodom, there's 2 Sodoms. There's 2 stories of Sodom. There's the Sodom that, you know, Lot goes to live in, the Sodom that has this battle that Avram goes and saves, this whole discussion. And then there's the others, the Sodom later on, the evil Sodom, where, you know, Hashem has to come and destroy that Sodom, and that Avram comes and davens for that Sodom. But it doesn't seem to be connected to the same Sodom here. In my mind, it was always, oh, you know, once they got their land back from these other kings, they became corrupt and things went wrong. But actually, I noticed this year that the Pasuk says right at the beginning, when Lot goes to Sodom, it says that Sodom were ra'im v'chata'im laHashem me'od. Okay, they were really evil, really, really bad. Meaning that when you think about that, when Avram now is meeting the king of Sodom, he's meeting the king of this really evil place. Something much deeper is going on in this conversation between the two. And we know how Chazal compare later on Sodom and Avram Avinu. It's in the Psukim. The difference between Avram's Hachnasat Orchim, how he brings everyone his chesed, and everything about Sodom, which is the exact opposite of that. And maybe that's what's actually happening here. We know Avram Avinu is the one who davens for Sodom, tries to save them, tries to say maybe there's some tzaddikim there. But maybe Avram tried to save Sodom a long time before that. Avram here is trying to save Sodom. He's trying to teach the king of Sodom a lesson. It's not saying that you can never get a present from someone else. That's not the point. Avram knows how Sodom sees possessions, how he sees rechush, how they think that everything is theirs and everything I control, whether it's the possessions, the people. We see this in the way they live in Sodom. And Avraham is trying to teach the opposite message. Koneh shamayim va'aretz. It's repeated twice in the psukim here. Avraham is trying to teach that message. Everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, you may have many possessions, but search for why you have those possessions. What good can you do in Hashem's world by having those possessions? What chesed can you do? How are you going to use that for something else? I know if I take anything, I know what you're going to think. This is me. Now I'm controlling Avraham because I made him rich. Avraham understands that when Melech Sodom says, take the rechush, it's actually another way of Melech Sodom trying to control, trying to feel in control. Avraham needs to teach a message to Melech Sodom, a message that maybe he doesn't have to teach Paro, but he does have to teach Melech Sodom. I'm not going to take anything because I want you to understand that everything belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The things that are mine just because I'm going to use them for good, to bring blessings into the world. This is Avraham maybe trying to save Sodom already here, trying to somehow teach them. Maybe later when he's asking, maybe there's some tzaddik in there, someone who got the message and is very disappointed to find out that there weren't any who really got this message. But for Avraham, it had to be clear cut in this case.
Very good, very good. There's definitely something greater happening here in this battle between these different worlds, between the 5 Melachim, the 4 Melachim, and Avraham, because we all know that Avraham was Avraham HaIvri. We're called Ivriim because Avraham was Ivri, and Ivri, Rashi tells us, he was me'ever hanahar. He was from the other side. When the entire world goes to this way, Avraham wasn't that way. Avraham was different. And this is in this week's Parsha. In this week's Parsha, we find Avraham Ivri. Right after we meet Melech Sodom, the pasuk right after we are told about Melech Sodom, we hear that Avraham Ivri, Yoshev Elonei Mamre, that Avraham is sitting in Elonei Mamre, and that's where he gets the message that Lot was captured. And this already sets the tone to tell us that there is something going on over here, something way deeper, way higher between Sodom on the one hand and Avraham Ivri on the other hand. And just like you're saying, when you look at what Sodom says to Avraham at the end, it says to him, take the property, let me keep the people. But you have to remember, in the beginning of the Parsha, we find a very interesting pasuk where it says that Avraham came to Eretz Yisrael, right? Lech Lecha el haaretz asher areka. And then it says that they took et kol rechusham asher rachashu ve'et hanefesh asher asu becharan. Now, you can't make people. You make money. You make property. You make rechush. So it should have been that they took the people and they made a lot of wealth. They made a lot of money. But that's not what the pasuk says. And from this, we know Chazal learned that Avraham was in the business of making people. What does it mean to make people? It means he would take people and give them meaning in their life. He would turn them from just beings to human beings, to people with a purpose, to people with a meaning. This is what Avraham did. This was Abraham's besorah to the world. This was Abraham's message to the world. This is the nefesh asher asu becharan, the nefesh. This is Avraham Avinu. He is all about taking that simple nefesh, that simple person, and turning him into something unique, into something special, into something with a purpose. And the exact opposite is Sodom. Sodom, when they look at people, they look at them as property. For Sodom, there's no such thing, people. We don't care about people. You're just property, and I just have more people to do for me, more things for what I want. There is no purpose for people. There's no meaning for people, because the people of Sodom don't care about the people. They care about the property, and they look at people just like property in the most earthly manner, in the most lowest manner that there is. So you can ask, okay, so why does he want the people? Because Melech Sodom understands that this is the battle with Abraham. This is what he sees. He knows that if Abraham takes the people, he's going to give them meaning. He's going to give them purpose. He's going to make the world better. He's going to make the world a better place by making people better, by giving people a purpose. Melech Sodom, all he wants is give me the people. Avraham Avinu makes people. Avraham Avinu turns beings into human beings. He gives them their purpose. He turns these individuals into something special. And you know, it's so hard not to see how this is exactly what's going on now in the world. This week in Yerushalayim, our community hosted a wonderful event with Rabbi Goldberg from Boca Raton. And he said such a wonderful sentence. He said, you look around right now, what's going on in the world, you see Hamas with the terrible, evil things that they did, things that are unimaginable. A normal human being can't even imagine them. And on the other hand, we look at Am Yisrael and the amount of chesed that Am Yisrael did. And the way Rabbi Goldberg put it, he said, regular people doing extraordinary things. This is what it's about. Am Yisrael is about taking these individuals, which are all regular people, but they all step up to do these extraordinary things. This is what we are about. This is what it means. This is what it means to be mitalmidav shel Avraham Avinu. This is what it means to be part of Am Yisrael, part of the good side in this world. Taking people and helping them bring more good into the world by turning each individual, each regular individual, into an extraordinary person. This is Avraham Avinu, and when you do that, also the rechush, the property, becomes holy. Also the rechush elevates to a higher level. This is what Avraham Avinu teaches us, and this is what we see when we look around, how so much chesed is going on. Our community rabbi, Rav Pinchas Biton, who was there at the event, said something wonderful. Everybody in Israel has opened this headquarter for help. And the term that is used in Hebrew for headquarters is chamal, chadar milchama, a war room, an initials of chet mem lamed. And a rabbi said, chamal also stands for chesed maleh lishma. This is what you see around Eretz Yisrael right now. Chesed maleh lishma. This is what's going on. This is the difference between Am Yisrael and the evil that's in the world and the terrible evil that we have faced. This is what we have to bring into the world. We have to bring this chesed maleh lishma by doing these extraordinary deeds. This is what it means to be the sons of Avraham Avinu. This is what it really means. Mitalmidei Avraham Avinu, chesed maleh lishma, filling the world with chesed, filling the world with good deeds. And this is what Avraham Avinu is teaching Melech Sodom, that everything belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you understand that, you elevate properties, the objects in the world, and you also, of course, elevate the people. And this is how you bring more good into the world. This is the biggest battle between Avraham and Sodom, between us and the evil in the world. This is what's going on today, and the way to defeat it by adding more chesed and by adding more good into the world.
So true, so true. And I think there's another thing here about not taking anything at all. You know, we see this in the Megillah. When the Jews are fighting their enemies, it says they fight all of their enemies that come against them. And it says over and over, they didn't touch any of the belongings. They just fought their enemy, but that was it. And we know this is in contrast to what the decree was against the Jews, that the enemies can kill the Jews and take everything they have. We see by them, they don't have that part. And I think there's something key here. The idea is that when I'm fighting a war can seem like it's about control. Who's controlling? So these kings are fighting those kings. And now Abraham comes and he's the one who controls everything. He wins all of the enemies. Now he's the one in power. And I think it's key. And Abraham wants to show that this isn't a war about control. When I'm fighting a war, it's a war of truth. It's a war of good against darkness. When the Jews fight against all of their enemies in the time of Haman, don't care about their possessions. They're not fighting because they want more of they're fighting for staying alive. They're fighting for being Jewish. And we see this here today too. That difference you were talking about, that contrast between our war, which is a war for good against darkness, for light. We're not going into Gaza and saying, oh, what can we take from here? It has nothing to do with that. It's a fight about truth. And we see on the other hand, when Hamas came in, they were fighting to kill all the Jews, but a bunch of them came in and said, oh, let's steal everything we can have. Again, we have that contrast in our face today. Are you fighting a war, truth of an ideal like Abraham is? And then he says, I don't want anything. I don't want maybe even just one thing. You would think maybe, no, even if I deserve it, I don't want it. It's not about that. My wars are wars of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are wars of light against darkness. Those are the wars I fight. Sometimes Avraham is the one educating, like you said, Oseh Nefashot. Sometimes he's educating the King of Sodom. In all these cases, he's always trying to achieve the same thing, to bring more light into the world, to bring more godliness into the world, and to raise the world up to be a better place.
Wonderful, wonderful. Be'ezrat Hashem, let's hope out of all the chesed we've been seeing for the past few weeks that we've been involved with, also among Am Yisrael, that all this chesed, again, will go up to Shemayim and help us defeat this evil and help us bring even more good into the world and teach the world what real good looks like and what real good should be, and not what fake good on social media and news is. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will defeat all evil out of this world. And Shkoyach Yitzi.
Shabbat Shalom, Besorot Tovot to all of Am Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, Besorot Tovot, and we'll talk again in Hashem next week.